the Book of Kings, where history meets destiny. Within this sacred text lies a story, epic in scope, chronicling the rise and fall of Israel's kings, the books of 1st and 2nd Kings. These books are not just historical records, but a vibrant tapestry woven with threads of faith, power, and the enduring spirit of a people chosen by God. From the heights of glorious reigns to the depths of devastating defeats, the narrative unfolds, offering a glimpse into the very soul of a nation grappling with its destiny. This is a journey that transcends time, offering timeless lessons about leadership, faith, and the consequences of choices made. Our story begins with the legacy of King David, a shepherd boy who ascended to the throne and united the tribes of Israel. David's son Solomon inherited a kingdom on the cusp of greatness, a land brimming with promise. Solomon, known throughout the land for his wisdom, sought to build a nation that would stand as a beacon of prosperity and faith. The kingdom flourished under Solomon's rule. Trade routes brought wealth and influence from distant lands. Yet even as Solomon's reign reached its zenith, shadows began to lengthen, hinting at the turbulence that lay ahead. The wisdom of Solomon, a king's greatest treasure. Solomon's reign began with a prayer, a humble plea to God for wisdom to guide his people. The Lord granted him wisdom beyond measure, a gift that would become the cornerstone of his reign. Stories of Solomon's wisdom spread far and wide, reaching even the distant corners of the earth. The tale of the two mothers who both claimed the same infant showcases Solomon's wisdom most poignantly. His decision to divide the child, knowing the true mother would sacrifice her own happiness to save her child, revealed a depth of understanding that astounded all who bore witness. Under Solomon's wise governance, Israel experienced a golden age. His court became a hub of intellectual and cultural exchange, attracting scholars, artists, and dignitaries from far and wide. The Temple of Jerusalem, a testament to faith. At the heart of Solomon's grand vision for Israel lay a sacred ambition, the construction of a temple dedicated to the one true God. The finest materials were sourced from across the kingdom and beyond. Cedar wood from Lebanon, gold from Ophir, and precious stones of every hue. The temple, upon its completion, was a sight to behold, adorned with intricate carvings and overlaid with shimmering gold. Inside, the Ark of the Covenant, the sacred chest containing the 10 Commandments, was placed in the Holy of Holies, the most sacred space in the temple. Shadows over the horizon, seeds of discord. Yet, even as the kingdom rejoiced in its prosperity and the glory of the temple, cracks began to appear in the seemingly unbreakable foundation of Solomon's reign. He amassed a vast harem, taking wives and concubines from surrounding nations, many of whom worshipped other gods. Solomon's once sharp judgment seemed to dull, his decisions increasingly driven by personal desires rather than the welfare of his people. A kingdom divided, the seeds of discord bear fruit. Solomon, the once wise king, breathed his last, leaving behind a kingdom teetering on the precipice of chaos. His son, Rehoboam, ascended the throne, inheriting a legacy both grand and deeply flawed. The northern tribes, burdened by heavy taxes and feeling increasingly alienated from the opulent court in Jerusalem, saw an opportunity for change.
Your father made our yoke heavy, lighten the harsh labor and the heavy yoke he put on us, and we will serve you.
Rehoboam, young and untested, faced a pivotal choice. The older advisors, wise and experienced, urged Rehoboam to choose a path of reconciliation. Rehoboam's folly, the rise of two kingdoms. But Rehoboam, swayed by the arrogance of youth and the whispers of his peers, chose a different path.
My father disciplined you with whips, but I will discipline you with scorpions.
The northern tribes, their pleas for fairness met with threats and disdain, erupted in open rebellion. 10 tribes of Israel, rejecting Rehoboam's rule, proclaimed their independence, establishing their own kingdom in the north with Jeroboam as their king. A tale of two kingdoms unfolds from this point forward. Their destinies intertwined, yet forever diverging. In the north, the kingdom of Israel, with its capital at Samaria, embarked on a tumultuous path marked by political instability, idolatry, and a relentless cycle of violence. Jeroboam, fearing that his people might be drawn back to Jerusalem for religious observances, established alternative places of worship in Bethel and Dan, erecting golden calves as objects of veneration. In the south, the kingdom of Judah, though smaller and less prosperous than its northern neighbour, clung to the lineage of David and the worship of the one true God. While Judah was not without its own share of unfaithful kings, there were moments of spiritual revival under righteous kings like Asa, Jehoshaphat, and Hezekiah. Jeroboam's decision to establish golden calves as objects of worship in Bethel and Dan set a dangerous precedent for the kingdom of Israel. Fearful of losing his newly acquired power, he sought to sever the religious ties that bound his people to Jerusalem. He established priests from among the ordinary people, bypassing the Levitical priesthood ordained by God. The golden calves, reminiscent of the idol Aaron fashioned in the wilderness during the Exodus, became potent symbols of Israel's descent into idolatry. Jeroboam's sin, repeated and amplified by his successors, would cast a long shadow over the fate of Israel. As the kingdoms of Israel and Judah grappled with political turmoil and spiritual decay, a new force emerged on the scene, the prophets. These were not mere fortune-tellers, they were God's messengers, chosen to speak his truth with unwavering boldness. And none were more formidable than Elijah, the Tishbite.
As the Lord, the God of Israel, lives whom I serve, there will be neither dew nor rain in the next few years except at my word.
The stage was set for a confrontation. A showdown between the God of Israel and the false gods that had ensnared his people. The slopes of Mount Carmel echoed with anticipation as Elijah issued his challenge.
How long will you waver between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him, but if Baal is God, follow him.
On one side stood the prophets of Baal, hundreds strong. Their elaborate rituals and frenzied cries are testament to their desperate pleas for their God to send fire from heaven. On the other side stood Elijah, alone yet resolute, his faith in the God of Israel unwavering. The prophets of Baal, their initial confidence waning, danced and chanted with increasing desperation, but their pleas to their God went unanswered. Then it was Elijah's turn. He rebuilt the altar of the Lord, torn down in the throes of idolatry.
Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known today that you are God in Israel and that I am your servant.
The heavens erupted in a blaze of fire, consuming the sacrifice in a single, glorious instant. The people fell prostrate, their voices uniting in a chorus of newfound faith. Elijah's ministry, though marked by moments of divine power and unwavering conviction, was nearing its end. Knowing his time on earth was drawing to a close, he chose Elisha, a humble ploughman, to be his successor. Elijah found Elisha ploughing a field, and he threw his cloak around Elisha's shoulders, a symbolic gesture signifying the transfer of prophetic authority.
Follow me.
Elisha, sensing the gravity of the moment, left everything behind and became Elijah's devoted disciple. He followed Elijah, observing his mentor's every move, learning the ways of a prophet. He witnessed firsthand Elijah's confrontations with wicked kings, his unwavering defense of the poor and oppressed, and his miraculous acts of power. One day, as they walked together towards the Jordan River, a fiery chariot descended from heaven, its horses snorting and pawing the air. Elijah, his earthly mission complete, was taken up in a whirlwind, his departure a testament to his extraordinary life and his unwavering faith.
My father, the chariots and horses of Israel.
As Elijah disappeared into the heavens, his cloak fell to the ground. Elisha picked it up, a tangible reminder of his inheritance. He struck the waters of the Jordan with the cloak, and the river parted, a sign that the spirit of Elijah rested upon him. Elisha, armed with a double portion of Elijah's spirit, was ready to carry on the prophetic mantle, to challenge the wickedness of kings and call the people back to God. The prophetic voices continued to echo throughout the land, even as the kingdoms of Israel and Judah spiraled deeper into sin and corruption. Prophets like Amos, Hosea, Isaiah, Micah, and Jeremiah rose to prominence, each with their own unique style and message, yet all united in their call for repentance and their unwavering commitment to God's covenant. They were voices crying out in the wilderness of sin, warning of the consequences of idolatry, social injustice, and spiritual apathy. They confronted kings in their opulent palaces, reminding them of their duty to uphold justice and righteousness. They challenged the complacency of the people, urging them to turn away from empty rituals and embrace genuine repentance. The prophets' messages were often harsh and unsettling, filled with pronouncements of judgment and warnings of impending doom. Yet, amidst the pronouncements of judgment, flickered embers of hope. The prophets, even as they spoke of God's wrath, also spoke of his unwavering love, his longing for his people to return to him. They painted vivid pictures of a future time when God would restore his people, heal their land, and establish his kingdom on earth. The prophets' words, though often ignored or met with resistance, served as a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, God's love and faithfulness never wavered. They were the conscience of a nation teetering on the brink, a testament to God's enduring faithfulness and his relentless pursuit of his people's hearts. The warnings of the prophets went unheeded. Israel and Judah, consumed by strife and idolatry, faced their demise. Their beacons of faith dimmed, eclipsed by foreign empires. The Assyrians swept across the land. In 722 BC, Israel fell after a brutal siege. Samaria was reduced to rubble. The northern kingdom vanished from history. Judah witnessed Israel's fall but failed to heed the warning. Its kings wavered between obedience and apostasy. But time was running out. In 586 BC, the Babylonians marched on Jerusalem. The city fell after a protracted siege. The temple lay in ruins, its treasures plundered. The people of Judah were marched into exile. The Babylonian exile was a period of profound grief and introspection for the people of Judah. Torn from their homeland, stripped of their temple, their king, and their religious symbols, they confronted the consequences of their choices, the bitter harvest of disobedience. The prophet Jeremiah lamented their fate.
My heart is broken because of the brokenness of my people. I mourn, horror has seized me.
Yet, even in despair, prophets offered comfort and hope. Ezekiel reminded them that God had not abandoned them. He envisioned a time when God would gather his people, restore them to their land, and establish a new covenant with them, written not on tablets of stone, but on their very hearts.
God will gather you from the nations, restore you to your land, and establish a new covenant with you, written on your hearts.
The exile, though a time of immense suffering, became a crucible of faith. Stripped of their external religious structures, the people of Judah were forced to examine their own hearts, to confront their own complicity in the nation's downfall. They began to understand that true worship was not confined to a specific place or dependent on elaborate rituals. It was about a relationship, a covenant with the living God, a commitment to follow his ways and to live lives of justice, mercy, and humility. The seeds of repentance, sown in the fertile ground of exile, began to take root, preparing the way for a future restoration, a return to their homeland, and a renewed relationship with their God. The epic narrative of 1st and 2nd Kings, though set in a distant time and place, continues to resonate across the centuries. It speaks to the enduring power of faith, the allure of power, and the consequences of choices made. Even the wisest leaders can be corrupted by pride, and nations can fall by idolatry and injustice. The kings of Israel and Judah offer insights into power and responsibility. Solomon's wisdom and later corruption illustrate the duality of leadership. The prophets stand as timeless examples of courage and integrity. They challenge us to live out our values and make a difference in the world. On our own. He remains steadfast even when we stray, his love pursuing us relentlessly, even in the wilderness of our sin. The story of Israel's kings, though marked by tragedy and loss, ultimately points towards a future hope. A time when God's kingdom will be established on earth as it is in heaven, a kingdom of justice, peace, and righteousness. And so the epic journey through 1st and 2nd Kings concludes, not with a whimper of defeat, but with a whisper of hope. A reminder that even in the midst of life's inevitable storms, God's love remains, a beacon guiding us towards a future filled with promise and possibility. The story, though ancient, continues to speak to the deepest longings of the human heart, offering guidance, wisdom, and the enduring assurance that even in the darkest of nights, the dawn will come.